Hey BookTube, it's Peg. Welcome back to the History Shelf. I am here today with new releases in the mail. We've got new books, new history titles, just fresh off the printing press, and wanting your help too, asking for your help in this video to share in the comments which book or books you would like me to review first or to take a crack at, to share some thoughts. There's a lot of interesting topics here, a fair range of things, I'd say. But, this certainly won't be my last, new books in the mail video. So they're coming in. So I do need your help. Tell me which books you would like me to review and cover. And then I will endeavor to do so. Let's start off with what looks to be a fascinating read, and it's just a beautiful looking book too. This is America and Iran, a history 1720 to the present. This is by John Gazvinian, and beautiful decal edges. Get this out of the way so I can actually show you. And this is put out by Knopf. Give you a brief overview here. An important, ambitious, urgently needed book. An illuminating portrait of the 2 centuries-long entwined history of America and Iran, and the first to examine in all its aspects the rich and fraught relations between these two powers, once allies, now adversaries. By admired historian, author of Untapped, The Scramble for Africa's Oil. Interesting. I have not read that book. For most Americans, the history with Iran begins in 1979 with the hostage crisis in the U.S. Embassy in Tehran. For most Iranians, it begins in 1953 with a coup called Operation Ajax, planned and organized by the first civilian-led CIA, which overthrew the democratically elected Prime Minister Mohammad Mossadegh and reinstalled the exiled young Shah on the peacock throne, convicting Mossadegh of treason and sending him to prison, with 300 people killed in the process. But the history between these two nations is much richer than this, and much less antagonistic. For 40 years, the United States has sought to portray Iran as a dangerous, destabilizing force in the Middle East, an exporter of revolution, fanaticism, and fundamentalism throughout the region. And Iran has portrayed the United States as an equally dangerous and destabilizing force in the Middle East, an arrogant and violent superpower bent on imposing its will on the Muslim world, an ignorant parvenu with little appreciation of the historical and cultural complexities of the region. For the past 4 decades, each country's government has accused the other of being a terrorist enemy, an agent of darkness and death around the world. In this new, rich, fascinating account, the author traces the complex, little-known story of the relations between these two powers back to the Persian Empire of the 18th century. Greatly admired by both Thomas Jefferson and John Quincy Adams, and an America seen by Iranians as an ideal to emulate for their own government. So that part sounds interesting, 1720 to the present. And he's drawing on archival research, including access to Iranian government archives rarely available to Western scholars. That's good. The Iranian-born, Oxford-educated historian leads us through the 4 seasons of U.S.-Iran relations: the spring of mutual fascination, the summer of early interactions, the autumn of close strategic ties, and the long, dark winter of mutual hatred. All right. He shows us why 2 countries that once had such heartfelt admiration for each other became such committed enemies, showing us as well how it didn't have to turn out this way. Indeed. Indeed. So, a very important book on American and Iranian history and relations. I'm looking forward to it. Let me know what you think. All right, moving on. We've got some big chunksters in this new release pile, so so let me go into the 3 that I kind of shared on my Instagram account, and you can follow my Instagram. It's on the top of my YouTube page there, or it's in my footnotes, wherever you wanna, if you want to Yes, Goldie? Okay, well,
She's being
my
something.
my dog's being something. They never let me record for very long.
She's being a needy baby. Okay.
Oh, she is being a needy
She
baby.
wants to talk about Benji.
Benji. Oh, she might have to go.
I just had her outside.
She doesn't have to go.
No, she might need to.
She just needs to talk to you. The dog is needy. Do you guys have that problem with your pets? They just Masterpiece Theater Time. Oh God. Okay, so the next book is a chunkster. I love reading vast histories of movements and people, and also the history of like communist revolutions around the world. I don't know why they fascinate me, but they do. Brand new, baby, in America here. This is The World Upside Down, A History of the Chinese Cultural Revolution by Yang Jisheng, author of Tombstone, which I also have. Big book, put out by Farrar, Straus, and Giroux. As a major political event and a crucial turning point in the history of the People's Republic of China, the Great Proletarian Cultural Revolution of 1966 through 1976 marked the zenith as well as the nadir of Mao Zedong's ultra-leftist politics. Reacting in part to the Soviet Union's, quote, revisionism, end quote, which he regarded as a threat to the future of socialism, as he regarded a threat which he regarded as a threat to the future of socialism, Mao mobilized the masses in a battle against what he called bourgeois forces within the Chinese Communist Party. This 10-year-long class struggle, on a massive scale, devastated traditional Chinese culture as well as the nation's economy. Following his groundbreaking and award-winning history of the Great Famine, and that was called Tombstone, Yang Jisheng presents the only history of the Cultural Revolution by an independent scholar based in mainland China, and makes a crucial contribution to understanding those years' lasting influence today. Let's see, The World Turned Upside Down puts every political incident, major and minor, of those 10 years under extraordinary and withering scrutiny, and arrives in English at a moment when contemporary Chinese governance is leaning once more toward a highly centralized power structure and a Mao-style cult of personality around Xi. So, and I should mention the translator here is Stacy. Wait, is it Stacy Mosher? Yeah, Stacy Mosher, in Gaojin. Now, I listened to a podcast. Where did I hear it? I think it was on New Book. It might have been on New Books Network, on iTunes. It was fascinating. She was so he interviewed her. As she worked very closely, obviously, with Yang Jisheng, and the interviewer was asking her questions about how is this book going over in China, and she's like, well, it's not allowed. It's not printed in China. They don't want people reading this book. She said there are like the pirated copies that get out, but no, I mean, this guy, Yang Jisheng, has a lot of courage to be writing the way he does about China. And it was a fantastic podcast. I'm gonna see if I can link it in the comments below. Because if you're interested in learning more about this book, interviews with authors or the translators can be very revealing and can give you a lot of extra insight that you might have not have had. And, you come away not knowing something, and 20 minutes later you're like, I could actually speak to this, So let me link below to the podcast. But I'm really intrigued by this book. I know my friend on Twitter, Lawrence Westwood, is like, you've already got, how do you, he's like, I'm so jealous. I want this book. This is supposed to be, he's a big fan of Jisheng's work. So I said, yeah, it landed here first. I don't know why it's not available where you're at right now, but it's important work. And we have to support these authors. Okay. Next big chunkster that arrived in the mail about a few days ago, actually. I'm very excited. This is an area of American history where I've written on it. I've done papers on it for my degree. I wrote a whole paper on the nullification crisis. See if that'll put you to sleep. But this guy was a major player in that. This is Calhoun, American Heretic, by Robert Elder. And this is put out by Basic Books. I think you might have seen this recently on Steve's channel. So I also got a copy. Yes, Calhoun. So this is going to be a timely book, in a sense. I think he's going to be writing into it some of the current events. I'll be curious to see how Robert Elder does that. But let me just read to you a little bit here. Last summer, amid ongoing protests across the country against racial injustice, the mayor of Charleston announced that the city would take down a monument to South Carolina's most famous political figure, John C. Calhoun. The decision came 5 years after the horrific shooting by a white supremacist at the Mother Emanuel AME Church, located a block away from the monument, which unleashed a wave of protests against monuments to the Confederacy. In a dark irony, one of the widely shared images of the storming of the U.S. Capitol in January shows a pro-Trump rioter carrying a Confederate flag beneath a portrait of Calhoun. Now, I've seen that picture. I didn't realize it was Calhoun in that painting. Son of a biscuit. Not a fan. Indeed, Calhoun's ghost haunts America today. I'm trying to get this here. As historian Robert Elder argues in Calhoun, American Heretic, while Calhoun is usually dismissed merely as a backward-looking traditionalist for his support of slavery, his legacy continues to infuse our politics. First elected to Congress in 1810, Calhoun served as Secretary of War during the War of 1812, and then as Vice President under two very different presidents, John Quincy Adams and Andrew Jackson. It was during his time as Jackson's Vice President that he crafted his famous doctrine of, quote, state interposition, end quote, which laid the groundwork for the South to secede from the Union and arguably set the nation on course for civil war. So it goes on, and I'm, if you had seen the other video, I'm sure, he read the full synopsis for you. But this is the first biography of Calhoun in decades, and the first to draw on the full Calhoun archives at the University of South Carolina. This volume brings together Calhoun's life and intellectual contributions, many of them deeply problematic, and offers a revelatory reconsideration of the antebellum South we thought we knew. All right. This is fascinating. I don't know. Let me know what you guys think. Would you like me to read this? Let me to see if I can maybe even get an interview with the author. Will that be something that you'd like to see on this channel? Let me know. I'm open to reaching out and doing that. Yeah. As Steve rightly said on his channel, he very much is a toxic figure. He was just a fire eater. It's a big book. But, oh, and someone else, too, on the Instagram mentioned I should maybe read this alongside this next book I'm about to show you, which might have something to say on it. But, yeah, let me know what you think about Calhoun. Not the person, but if you want me to, if you'd like me to.
Here's a dick. Sorry.
That's okay. This channel is not listed as child safe. I mean, it's okay. I don't make anything bad, but every now and then you might hear an adult word. I don't know. All right, so, okay, exciting. I read this guy's work. This is a very different type of work for him. I'm sure you've all... let's see. Yes. Thomas E. Ricks. This is his new book. This is out by Harper. This is First Principles. What America's founders learned from the Greek and Romans and how that shaped our country. Brand new. All right, let me tell you what this one's obviously about. You can tell, but on the morning after the 2016 presidential election, Thomas E. Ricks, along with much of the nation, awoke with some concerns. What kind of nation did we now have? Is this what was designed or intended by the nation's founders? And so, trying to get as close to the source as he could, Ricks decided to go back and read the philosophy and literature that shaped the founders' thinking and the letters they wrote to one another debating these crucial works, among them the Iliad, Plutarch's Lives, and the works of Xenophon, Epicurus, Aristotle, Cato, and Cicero. For though much attention has been paid to the influence of English political philosophers closer to their own era, like John Locke, the founders were far more immersed in the literature of the ancient world, and that's true. The first 4 American presidents came by their classical knowledge in different ways. Washington absorbed it mainly from the elite culture of his day. Adams learned it through the laws and rhetoric of Rome. Jefferson immersed himself in classical philosophy, especially Epicureanism, and Madison, both a groundbreaking researcher and a deft politician, spent years studying the ancient world like a political scientist. Each of their experiences and their distinctive learning styles and choices played an essential role in the formation of the United States, in examining how and what they studied. And in viewing these men through the unusual lens of the classical world, Ricks is able to draw arresting and fresh portraits of men we thought we knew. Fascinating. So First Principles follows these 4 members of the revolutionary generation from youth to adulthood as they grappled with questions of independence and with forming and keeping a new nation. In doing so, Ricks not only interprets the effect of the ancient world on each man and how their classical education shaped our Constitution and government, but also offers startling new insights into these legendary leaders. Yes. So that's Thomas Ricks. And as you know, he's big on the writing about the American military. He wrote Fiasco, which was a bestseller. I think the most recent book I got by him was actually the Churchill and Orwell, The Fight for Freedom. But yeah. What do you guys think of that? All right. All good stuff. All good stuff. Okay, guys, I gotta take a quick pause right here. Don't mind me. A little dry. Okay. The next book I got. You know me. I like Middle Eastern history and current events as well, as you noted with my MBS books that I've gotten recently. But this is about Soleimani. I am really wanting to know more about what happened there. As much as can be known right now, I want to know about it. And this is from a publishing company called One World Publications. This is a new book called The Shadow Commander. Soleimani, the U.S. and Iran's Global Ambitions, by Arash Azizi. Sorry, I'm trying to get used to the positioning of this new microphone, and there we go. Thank you for your time. Until his assassination by a targeted U.S. drone strike in January 2020, which was approved by President Donald Trump, Commander Qasem Soleimani was one of the most powerful and popular men in Iran, operating as the military spearhead for Iranian foreign policy. Soleimani carried out the wishes of the country's supreme leader and was widely regarded as a much-feared maverick controller. His actions led to the development of the Islamic Republic as a major force in the Middle East, with interventions in Afghanistan, Iraq, Syria, and Yemen. This was far from where he began as a youth, living on the margins in a country ruled by a monarch supported by the U.S. In this highly readable account, historian Arash Azizi examines Soleimani's life, regional influence, and future ambitions. The Shadow Commander includes first-hand evidence never before presented, with interviews from Iranians, Afghans, Iraqis, and Syrians who knew Soleimani for years. Accounts span from his personal driver, the aides who accompanied him to his Moscow meeting with Vladimir Putin, to his brother. As U.S. and Iran tensions rise once more, through Soleimani's life, Azizi reveals Iran's global ambitions beyond its proxy wars, geopolitics, and nuclear program. As a result, the Shadow Commander presents a greater understanding of why Iran sees the West as its enemy and sheds light on a country whose actions are much talked about but seldom understood. Yes, this book will actually make a good companion to the America and Iran book I just showed to start off this video. It seems like it would be a good a follow-up to that. Kind of brings you up to the current day, you know, with all of our crazy events. So the Shadow Commander, that looks good too, guys. What am I going to do first?
I love how you're stringing them along. That's so awful.
What?
Do you think, guys?
What do you think, guys?
Press 5.
No, I don't do that.
But you would if you could.
No, I'll be like, you know, crush that like button and subscribe. I don't do that. You guys know I rarely say that, you know.
Rarely. Oh, wait, so you have?
I've said it once or twice. I say thanks for subscribing, and if you want to subscribe, please do. But if you don't, you don't. It's a free country. And she says, mm-hmm. All right. Moving on. I got a couple of great books from University Press. One of my favorites, as you know. I mentioned that I'm reading the book of Jeremiah right now, and the commentary I'm reading to go along with that study is just so shallow and so super. It's not doing anything for me. It's not giving me enough context and meat. Now, this is a thin book, but I think it's going to at least fill in some gaps. So, I am going to review this one on this channel once I'm finished reading the book of Jeremiah. But this is John Goldingay's brand new release, The Theology of Jeremiah, the book, the man, the message, by IVP Press, IVP Academic, I should say. It's a slim little volume, but, you know, it's going to help me at least put into context the historical events that were going. It's hard for me sometimes to keep track of the different exiles and the different conquering tribes. You know, first it was the Assyrians. No. The Assyrians, and then it was the Babylonians, and then it was the Egyptians. See, can't keep it straight. But yeah, this is the kind of stuff I need that I'm not getting from that other book. You know, this kind of graphs and charts kind of tell me what's happening where. I mean, let me just read you a quick synopsis. Sorry, you shouldn't have to see that silly arm on the microphone. Okay. Let's see here. So how do we think about the theology of the book of Jeremiah? That's a great question, because I want to know. John Goldingay considers the prophet Jeremiah himself, his individual circumstances, and those of Judah, and his message. As we view the book of Jeremiah in its entirety, we learn about God, Israel as the people of God, the nature of wrongdoing and prophecy, and what we know about the future. So it's got a ton of blurbs. Yeah. So that's, yeah. I'll let you know when I get through it, but I'm just so happy to have this. Something to supplement the little stingy little commentary I'm reading right now. This one will be very, very welcome. Oh, yeah, so this is, I want to know more about this guy because, and I know Christy Lewis at Dostoevsky in Space, you might be interested in getting this because I know you mentioned you listen to your, you've got some daily podcast or like a little podcast you listen to, like Spurgeon's sermons. This is a new book about Spurgeon that you might want to look into. It's called Tethered to the Cross, The Life and Preaching of C.H. Spurgeon by Thomas Braymeyer. And it's foreword by Timothy Larson. Oh, wasn't that nice? They got a little puff sheet in here for me. Let's see. Let me read this for you. Just a little bit about Spurgeon in case you're not aware of who C.H. Spurgeon was. A truly great preacher is marked by a combination of faith and fire. Faith in two senses. The first is the faith that was once delivered unto the saints. The sermons of great preachers are messages of substance. They are not merely frothy concoctions of sentiment and anecdote, but rather they find their center of gravity in the purity of doctrine, in the profundity of Scripture, and in the power of the gospel. The second is faith in the sense of personal conviction. This living faith is also fuel for the fire. Great preachers have convictions that are contagious. They speak existentially to the whole person, unleashing deep emotions and galvanizing the heart, the intellect, and the will. They move their hearers and not merely in an ephemeral and superficial way. Deep calleth unto deep. The hearer feels located, as if the preacher is speaking specifically to him or to her. The messenger provokes a response in the listener. Wow. Okay, well this goes on and on and on. Let me see where we're getting. Okay. In the context of specific ages, nations, and denominations, a few figures will emerge preeminent. Widely hailed as fitting the portrait of a great preacher that has just been painted. In the early church, John Chrysostom was one. His very name, Chrysostom, the golden-mouthed, was really an honorary title in tribute to his power in the pulpit. In the 12th century, I would not have wanted to try to hold out with a bad conscience against an authoritative proclamation from Bernard of Clairvaux, nor in the 14th century against a piercing oration from Catherine of Siena. In the 18th century, even a penny-pinching deist such as Benjamin Franklin found himself throwing all his money into the offering plate when George Whitefield made the appeal. Would that Franklin had also joined the myriads who gave their lives to Christ when Whitefield delivered a sermon. The 19th century was a sermonic age that produced a company of great preachers. Even just in the single city of London, many worthy voices were raised in the cause of Christ, whose ministries resounded to other countries and down the decades well beyond their deaths. Okay, so this is written in this is actually Spurgeon speaking. I'm sorry. So, I have been a Victorian scholar my whole career, but if I was transported back in time to Victorian London, I would skip the chance to see Queen Victoria and opt instead to go hear Catherine Booth, the mother of the Salvation Army, preach with fiery conviction the gospel of Jesus Christ. Wait, who wrote this? Oh, this is from Timothy. Okay, Timothy Larson. Sorry, the pub sheet kind of got me confused. The I is Timothy Larson. This is from the introduction or the foreword. But yeah, he's saying that Charles Haddon Spurgeon is numbered among the greatest preachers. And it goes on to talk about the how extraordinary his ministry was. It's a biography, I mean. Okay, sorry, I should have read that than this. This was an excerpt. Tethered to the cross is how the renowned 19th century English Baptist pastor Charles H. Spurgeon, who lived from 1834 and then died in 1892, described the task of ministry and his approach to preaching. For nearly 4 decades, Spurgeon served as the minister of the church at the Metropolitan Tabernacle in London. But what specifically guided the reading of Scripture by the man known as the Prince of Preachers? So, tracing the development of Spurgeon's thought and his approach to biblical hermeneutics throughout his ministry, theologian and historian Thomas Braymeyer argues that Spurgeon viewed the entire Bible through the lens of the cross of Christ. This method led Spurgeon to interpret texts in a consistent fashion, resulting in sermons, articles, and instruction that employed cross-centered language, which was aimed at the conversion of unbelievers. All right, so it's kind of a theological biography, I would guess. But anyway, I'm excited to read this. I want to know more about Spurgeon. I have actually a collection of his sermons. I bought a long time ago. There's a publishing company called Baker Academic, or just Baker. And they print books very cheaply that are reprinted from like the original typeset. And I have a set of Martin Luther's sermons and a collection of Charles Spurgeon's sermons. And I have started reading 1 or 2 of those. But I need to pull those back out. And I think I will once I tap into this and get to know who Charles Spurgeon, the man, was. So those are 2 books from IBP Press. very happy to take a look at. Okay, and then I also received from Harvard. I think you also might have seen this book before, but maybe on Steve's channel, but it's The Blood of the Colony, Wine and the Rise and Fall of French Algeria by Owen White. Woo! Sorry. So I'm trying to get used to this fancy new... I don't know. I'm trying to get the positioning of the books right with the handle. So this book is We Owe to Wine, a Blessing Far More Precious than Gold, The Peopling of Algeria with Frenchmen, stated agriculturalist Pierre Berthol in the early 1930s. In the last decades of the 19th century, Europeans had displaced Algerians from the colony's best agricultural land and planted grapevines. Soon enough, wine was the primary export of a region whose mostly Muslim inhabitants didn't drink alcohol. That can be a problem. Settlers made fortunes while drawing large numbers of Algerians into salaried work for the first time. But the success of Algerian wine resulted in friction with French producers, challenging the traditional view that imperial possessions should complement, not compete with, the metropole. By the middle of the 20th century, amid the fight for independence, Algerians had come to see the rows of vines as an especially hated symbol of French domination. After the war, Algerians had to decide how far they would go to undo the transformations the colonists had wrought, including the world's fourth biggest wine industry. Owen White examines Algeria's experiment with nationalized wine production and worker-run vineyards, the pressures that resulted in the failure of that experiment, and the eventual uprooting of most of the country's vines. So that's a sense of what this book is about. I'm going to read it in the sense that it ties into my interest in just the French involvement in Algeria. I've got some books on the Algerian War. But, I mean, this is another aspect of, like, how I was showing you in another video how I've been getting into books about crops. Weird shit like that. I swore. Weird stuff like that. Like, I got a book on, cotton. Then I got a book on tobacco. Then I got a book on sugar. And now, whatever. And now it's on the, wine, grapevines, vineyards, and economy. It's just interesting. It's just interesting to me. So, yeah. Happy to have an opportunity to take a look at this. Blood of the Colony, Harvard University Press. Fantastic. All right. Let's see. Oh, and then, you know what? I'm going to share this. This is a new book. I was contacted by an author who put together a collection of letters. Well, you know what? I'll just read this out to you because it really sounds fascinating. And again, in this video or my last video, and I talked about collections of letters. I love reading letters, and so when she told me about this book, I said yes, I'd be more than happy to take a look at this, to review it. I love reading letters, and it sounds like such an uplifting story. And so this is 77 Letters, Operation Morale Booster, Vietnam, by Susan P. Hunter. And it includes letters from Joan Hunter, Robert Johnson, and Melody Johnson. There's a foreword by Mike Gardia, author of Hal Moore, A Soldier Once and Always. So let me just read to you. In 1966, during the Vietnam War, Joan Hunter, an ordinary housewife, mother of 4 from the small, idyllic coastal town of Scituate, Massachusetts, spearheads Operation Morale Booster, a mission to ensure that every deployed American GI receives mail at weekly mail call. Armed only with her typewriter and her vibrant personality, she reaches thousands of soldiers and especially captivates one battle-tested soul, Bob Johnson. She is white, he is black. She is married, he is not. This potentially scandalous relationship transcends society's rules of engagement due to their honest and thought-provoking candor. This found collection of letters, providing a full dialogue in many cases and spanning 7 years from 1966 to 1972, engages the reader, allowing them to vicariously experience what it was like to be a recipient in real time. With the exchange of letters driving the story's flow, the reader will be taken back in time and into the day-to-day activities of one of the most successful cavalries in the U.S. Army during the Vietnam War. That was the 1st Cav. 1st Cav Air, 2nd 7th Cavalry Division Air Mobile. The reader will be privy to the thoughts and undistorted narratives of the war from Bob's perspective, a young soldier from Philadelphia, who was well respected by the ranks and served 4 tours in Vietnam. Oh, that's so nice. The backdrop of this story is set on the front lines of our country's most controversial war. However, the focus of these letters is on the other side of this war, delving into subjects previously thought to be inconsistent with the Vietnam War. These being love for humanity amid the war zone, the freedom of racial equality in the Army versus the stark contrast of racial atrocities simultaneously happening in the States, the acceptance of miscegenation, the strength derived from having faith in God, and the value of understanding, even your enemy. In an astounding quirk of fate, these 2 unlikely pen pals reconnect 50 years post-war. But the story doesn't end there. From this reunion, the most unexpected redemption takes place.
It
So,
better end with them getting married. That's all I'm gonna say. If it doesn't end with that,
if it doesn't end with them getting married, she
yeah,
says,
I'm not
I'm done.
interested.
Listen, we'll find out.
No, you gotta, no.
I'm not going
I
to
need that
spoil
guarantee
this.
up front, I'm sorry.
I can't guarantee that.
Well, then,
Listen, I will.
you're a disappointment to me, and I don't know what to say.
But isn't it a beautiful story? I'd love to know that it ended that way. We will find out with.
Same time, same place, next week.
Aww. That was a movie, right? Same time next year with Alan Alda and what's her face?
Yeah.
That was a good movie. Although he was cheating. He was cheating on his wife, so that kind of ruined it. That wasn't romantic. That was horrible. Bad Alan Alda. What the hell were you thinking? I am really sorry, Miss Susan Hunter. I am talking about your book. We're talking about. This is my channel.
With spoiler, that would be so
Yeah,
good.
Martine wants a spoiler, but I'll be reading, so I don't want the spoiler. I want to be surprised. So anyway, I'm so excited. So thank you to Susan Hunter. I'll be happy to take a look at this. I'll let you guys know. I'll let you guys know what happens, right?
If I find out before then, I will totally.
Martine says if she finds out before then, she is going to spill the beans.
Yeah, I'll do one of those, messages you can do with planes. The smoke messages or whatever.
Oh, smoke signals? What?
No, they release white smoke or whatever.
Oh, the Pope thing.
Well, no, not the Pope thing. Never mind, nothing.
I don't know where she's going with this. The white smoke. I'm like.
No, the planes that you can get to spell out different words.
Oh, the planes that write words in the sky. The skywriting, honey. It's called skywriting.
Yeah, and that's how they choose new popes too.
Yeah, isn't she funny? Da-din boom. Psh. She is a hoot and holler. All right, so actually, okay. You know what? Let's end right there because it's 38 minutes, and there's more to go. But those are some of the new releases, new books out that I wanted to share with you guys. So again, let me know in the comments what's jumping out at you. What would press 5? No, just let me know what you think and what if there's something of pressing interest and urgency that you would love for me to start reading next. Because actually, I've got a little bit of an opening. I've got a little bit of a breather. I'm finishing some stuff, and so I think I can start a new book, and I'm trying to decide which one. Help me out. All right, guys, so until next time, so happy to hear from you. I love dialoguing with all of you guys. I didn't mention it in my last video, but there's still time. There's still time to join the Brothers Karamazov Readalong. Just last Thursday night, we had our first live stream, which kind of was like an intro, kind of talking what to expect. We've got a Discord group. A bunch of people we're all reading this book together starting in February. So, Monday is February. So there's still time. I will link below in the description box the link to the live stream that we all had. So if you want to just get your feet wet, get your toes, dangle in the water and see what it's all about. See if you're interested in reading the Brothers Karamazov by Fyodor Dostoevsky with us during the months of February and March. We'd love to have you. All right, so that's enough for my public announcements. And I will talk to you guys soon. And have a great Saturday evening, BookTube.